Hello everyone and welcome back to Tindalos Gaming, and welcome back to episode 3 of my Fear of the Dark campaign, in which I'm playing the Sons of the New Moon campaign. Episode 3, as I've said, there have been quite a few shenanigans that have gone on in the previous episodes, which I'm going to cover via a very brief review in a second. I hope you're enjoying this content. There are links in the description to my Discord channel if you'd like to join that. I would ask if you to subscribe and like the video if this is content that you're enjoying. It really does help the channel. Anyway, those plugs over and done with. Everything's in the description channel. All of the links are there if you need them. So, where are we at? Well, like I say, episode 3. Previously, in episode 1, our 5 intrepid investigators had met up with Professor Stern to see if we could find any more information out about our protagonist in this scenario, whose name is Henry Towers. We're looking basically to find Henry, or to try and see where he's at. And we've come across a couple of scenarios. So scenario 1 was where we had to meet up with Professor Stern. Unfortunately, during the course of that scenario, poor old Harold Hartman bit the dust from a couple of armed men, so he's no longer part of our campaign. So we were down to 4 investigators. We then moved on to scene 2, which is set in Bridgeport. The small town of Bridgeport, where we had to try and sneak our way through without coming into any contact with any villagers. Unfortunately, we did manage to get 3 of our investigators off, Rowena, Grace and Everett. But unfortunately, in this scenario, or in that scene, poor old Earl Mercer bit the dust as well. So 2 for 2 so far, and my dice rolling has been particularly poor. So where we are at now, we have done scene 2, and I left it where we'd rolled off to see what happened to Earl, and he'd unfortunately passed away. So I'm now going to go across to the table to see and read through the next set of choose your own adventure type elements of this game, and let's see where we're going to go from scenario 2. So I'll see you across at the table in 2 seconds. Okay, we're now over at the table. We've got our campaign booklet in front of us. If you're wondering why this is here, there's a spoiler to the next scene, so I'll just put something in front there so that we don't spoil ourselves too much for that scene. So, the end of the scene, it says, if they've managed to survive, go to 25, and if they've been KO'd by the villagers, go to 24. Well, obviously 3 of them did survive, so we will go to 25. Turned over, find 25, take that out of the way. So here we go, we're at page 25, or numbered entry 25, and it says, after crossing the village in the dark of the night and having been attacked by several villagers armed with knives and axes, the characters make it to the church. Over the stone wall, they see a wooden building looming menacingly in the darkness of the night. The tall bell tower seems to dominate the whole scene. As they walk silently around the building, they see that one of the rear windows is open. One of the characters enters through it and opens the door for his friends. Once inside, silently and with the help of a torch, they check what appears to be a small sacristy. They see nothing out of the ordinary apart from a parish priest's vestments and the usual Christian homily paraphernalia. They pass through a corridor and open a door and find themselves in a large room, which appears to be the area of the church dedicated to prayer and worship. 6 long pew lines the room, and on the 3 steps you see the altar with a carved wooden lectern. Everything seems normal and you hardly notice anything out of place. Choose the character with the highest intelligence value and make a check on that characteristic. Okay, so we have got Rowena, we've got Grace, and we've got Everett. Rowena is intelligence 7, Grace is intelligence 3, and Everett is intelligence 3. So let's get our D10. There we go. And we'll roll on Rowena's intelligence of 7. So let's see what we get. We get a 6. So we succeed. So we go to page 30. Or numbered entry 30. The character notices that dust is gathering everywhere. A large spider's web is coming out of the back of a bench and reaching the ground. Everything looks abandoned and disused. You get the impression that no one has been using this church for quite some time. Although the back of the church you had entered wasn't dusty, which leads you to think that perhaps the worship area is not used, although the back of the sacristy is. After passing through a side door, you see a corridor, and at the end of the door, leading down into what appears to be a cellar, go to 33. 33. The steps of the stairs disappear into darkness. No sound comes from out of the cellar, so you descend the steps in the most ominous silence. When you reach the bottom of the steps and open a new door, your body freezes as you gaze down into a huge cellar in which there are several large iron cells with thick chains and padlocks hanging from their doors. Inside the empty cells, they see pieces of bread and stool jumbled together. Men's and women's clothes are piled in a corner along with personal belongings, a handbag, a watch, a pair of glasses. The 6 cells you can see appear to have housed people in recent times. Perhaps Henry Towers was kidnapped in one of them, from which he managed to escape. The characters are horrified to find that all 6 cells have been used, and given the state they are in, it is likely that they are quite old, so the number of people who have suffered the horror of being locked up in there must be numerous. After checking all of the rooms in the church, the characters conclude that they have checked the entire building, and so they proceed up the stairs and leave the place. When they reach the sacristy area, they hear noises outside the church, so they drop to the floor for fear of being discovered. Outside, they hear several people talking to each other. "I've seen them over here." "I didn't see anything." "Jeremy is dead. Somebody cut his throat at the Harris house." "You've got to find them. Send Jimmy and his lads to the gorge just in case." The voices die away as they move from the church. The characters leave the church and make their way back to the car. Protected by the darkness, they walk through several streets while listening to the voice of villagers in the distance. Slowly, they approach the place where their car was parked. Go to 19. When they reach the alley where they had parked their vehicle, they realise that their car is not there. They are sure that they parked it there. Suddenly, from what seems like from a stable, they hear someone calling them in a low voice, and they see a man leaning out from between some wooden planks, telling them to come closer, while indicating to remain silent with a finger on his lips. As they enter the stable, they see a burly man with one arm bandaged, the bandage showing a wide bloodstain. He holds a shotgun tightly and at all times seems to be watching for any noise or movement around them. "Shh! Shut up! Don't let them hear you. I think you're their next prey. My name is Vince. I came here a couple of days ago looking for my brother. He called me on his way home and told me he was going to spend the night in this shitty town. And then I never heard from him again. I think those people are sick. Years ago in the Great War in Europe, I saw the worst of human beings, and I thought I would never see anything like it. But how wrong was I? I was. It seems that these murderers kidnap poor, unwary people who pass through the village. Why? How should I know? Maybe because they're sick. I don't know. I searched the church, but my brother is not there. Just a few empty cages. I found his car along with several other cars in the red house, and this is in. Hang on a sec. Sorry, my camera went on to standby. Let me read that bit again. I found his car along with several other cars in the red house that is in. Yes, I said the red house. It's painted red, you know. Yes, it's on the outskirts of town. It looks like it's abandoned, but there's always movement there. And there's a barn with several cars. I almost got caught by one of these bib while I was investigating the red house. Of course I can take you there. Let's do one thing. Let's help each other. I'm looking for my brother. Help me find him. Together we'll all have a better chance. Vince continues, I don't know what's going on in this town, but in that house there were several different cars piled up and luggage. Quite a few suitcases stacked up against the wall. The owners are missing, like my brother. In that house I've seen activity of people, and some of them were leaving towards the forest, but I've not been able to follow them. I don't know where they are going. Follow me. If we can go out, we can get to the road. The red house is not far away. I'll show you the way. From now on, Vince will join the group of characters, acting as another character under the player's command. At the end of this book, you have his character card and a brief personal history. At the end of the game, you can discard this character, or if the character who had been KO'd is eliminated from the game due to the aftermath, you can decide to include Vince as one of the characters of your warband. After crossing an orchard and jumping over the fence, the characters arrive at the road in the dark. Quietly and crouching down to avoid being seen, they continue along the side of the road, hidden by tree branches. Once out of the village, they can relax further, advancing into the moonlit night, walking along the dark road. They continue to walking along the road for almost an hour, and after a bend in the road, through a dense grove of trees, in the distance they can see a house in a rather dilapidated state. Although it is clear that it was originally painted red, now it's rather dulled by time and weather. As they stand in front of the house, they recognise it from one of the photos they found in Henry Tower's house. Apparently, he'd been in this house at some point doing his research. It's a two-storey house in poor condition. Next to the farmhouse is a large barn, all surrounded by a fence that is down and broken in places. The vegetation had reclaimed its place after years of neglect. In the middle of the night, they approached the red house, trying to find out the whereabouts of their friend Henry Towers, as he told them on the phone that he would go there to get to the bottom of the mystery. To continue, go to scene 3. Well, there we go. So that's the choose your own style adventure part of this episode. What I will do now, and it will be a matter of a swipe for you guys and girls, but for me it will be digging into my scenery, digging out stuff, setting stuff up, so it'll take a little bit of time. But as I said, the magic of video editing, it'll be literally a split second. But we'll go across to that scene now. We'll get our characters. It's good to know we've got Vince on board, so we'll get his character card sorted out and we can have a look at that. And then we will continue to scene 3. Alright, I'll see you in 2 seconds. Okay, we're now over at the table, all set up, and I'll read what it says in the campaign book for scene 3. It's called The Red House. We will set up a 90 centimetre by 90 centimetre table with a farm and a barn, which we've done. This is the barn here, and this is the farmhouse here. We'll place several fences, piles of firewood, and all sorts of terrain, which is what I've done. Little water tower type thing, some orchards type, and we've got a car over there in the background. On the left hand cam you can see we've got a bit of an orchard over here as well, and on the right hand side you can see we've got the car and another sort of orchard and another little barn over in the right in the corner. So and all the terrain elements that we consider appropriate for the scene. On one of the table edges, we'll place a stretch of road, which is what I've done. This is what is here. You can just see it at the top of the screen, which is where the area where the characters will be deployed. And I've deployed the 4 characters here as well. We will place 3 points of interest on the map. One close to the house, which is this one here. one close to the barn, or another one near the barn. You can't see it, but if I just pull up the left-hand camera, you should be able to see it. Yep, there you go. That's another point of interest here. And then the final one, it says the third, an equidistant distance of no less than 20 centimeters from the other two, and I've placed it in the van at the back there, towards the back. Characters will be free to move from their deployment area, the stretch of the road, to investigate the farm, checking any points of interest they wish in order to get clues. When a character investigates one of the 3 suggested points of interest, they will read the description of that point of interest found in this scene. Each point of interest has a name: the house, the barn, or the open field. And that is the setup for this scenario. Funnily enough, there are no enemies on the board, which does worry me a little bit. So I will activate the characters one by one. I'm not going to create a deck at this point because obviously there are no enemies in play. So I'm just going to literally activate person by person. So we actually managed to pick up, let's go through our warband just so we understand, because we've had a couple of unfortunate fatalities. So first of all, we've still got Rowena in play as our hero. She's still managing to hang on. We've also got now, who's joined us, Vince, who's an ally, and funnily enough, model-wise, he looks a little bit like who was it, Everett, who was killed in the first round. But I mean, that is what it is. He's Vince. Then we've got Grace, who's still in play, and finally we have got Everett. Sorry, so the other guy was Earl. Sorry, Earl. This guy, the guy with the shotgun, is being proxied for Vince. We've got our 2 hero points ready to go. So what we need to do is we need to start by activating a character. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate Rowena, who has got 3 actions as a hero, and she's going to use all of her 3 actions to move towards the barn, I think. So she's going to move 15 inches to get across, straight across to there. Grace, so she's activated. We'll put an activated ticket by her. And point of interest. Do we need an action to do a point of interest? Let me just grab my rule book. Bear me 2 seconds. Okay, doesn't actually say in the rule book or the campaign book that whether you need an action to check a point of interest, but for this game I'm going to say you will need an action to do that. So Rowena has used all of her 3 actions to move towards the barn. Grace is going to activate next, and she's going to move her 10 inches, or 10 inches, to move and follow up and try and keep up with the very speedy Rowena. So Grace has activated, put an activated token by her. Then we're going to activate Vince, who's going to do the similar thing. He's going to move his 10 inches. He's going to go towards the farm. So Vince is activated. And then a very similar thing for Everett. He's going to do the same thing and try and catch up with Vince. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty much it for the first turn. Let's get on the overhead and see what we're doing. So we'll clear off our activated tokens. Put those to one side for a sec. And then we'll start turn 2. Now Rowena is at the point of interest for the barn. So she's going to spend her first activation to investigate the barn. So let's turn over the page and see what it says. The barn. On entering the barn, the character is surprised to see a dozen cars parked inside in varying degrees of abandon. From one that looks as if it's been there for a few days to one that is completely covered with a thick layer of dust. On one side of the barn and forming a wall, dozens of suitcases and travel bags are piled on top of one another. You can see that they've been opened and searched and stacked in no order. At one point, Vince points to a car. Oh, well, Vince is over there, but okay, we'll read on. Vince points to the car and says, "That's my brother's Ford," and falls silent in grief. The car is in perfect condition and the keys are in the driver's seat. Both the cars and the suitcases seem to belong to different unrelated people who may have been abducted over time, as several vehicles could have been parked there for months. Choose a character at random and make an intelligence check. On a successful result, the character finds in one of the suitcases a briefcase belonging to the nurse. If the roll is not successful, he will not see it. Okay. Well, what I think I'm going to do here is, because Rowena and Grace are the nearest ones to the barn, it doesn't seem quite right to be rolling on these two over here. I'm going to do a random intelligence, randomly assign the intelligence to check to Rowena or Grace. So we'll roll a d10. A 1 to 4 will be Rowena, and a 5 to 10 will be Grace. I think that's how it works. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. No, 1 to 5. Sorry, get me numbers in the muddle. 1 to 5 will be Rowena, and 6 to 10 will be Grace. So let's get across to the dice and see who actually does the test. And obviously, clearly, that's going to be Grace with an intelligence of 3 or less. So let's see what she gets. And she passes. She passes with a 1. My God, that's a bit fluky. So let's get back across so you can see what's going on. So that's it. If the dice roll is successful, he or she finds a first aid kit in a suitcase, and a wound of one of the characters can be healed at this very moment, right now. If none of the characters need healing from their wounds at this moment, the first aid kit can be kept with the character to use it at the end of any scene to heal a wound or give a point of life to any character that would have been KO'd during the scene. Okay, so let's put a little first aid marker there, sort of, so it just reminds us that Rowena's got a first aid kit. And then it says, apart from the vehicles and the luggage, there is nothing else you find of interest in the barn. Okay. So let's move across and see what this is going to do. He's going to move these 5 inches to be there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to spend his second action, because he's an ally. Doesn't really make any difference, but he's an ally. Oh, Rowena's got an activated token. What's she going to do with her other 2? Oh, she's only used 1 action. Sorry. Let's just take Vince back a second. Rowena, she's got 2 more actions left. Nearly forgot about that. So Rowena, the speedy girl, is going to move her 2 other actions towards the car, which is cool, or the van, truck. Okay, that's cool. And then, as we were saying with Vince, what we're going to do, he's going to move his 5 to there, And then for his second action, he's going to investigate the farm. So let's see what the farm says. Or the house, sorry. Okay, it says, the character checking this point of interest comes across a long abandoned house with broken glass and doors and dust settling on everything inside. With hardly any furniture and in obvious disrepair, the character finds no evidence of any activity. As he's about to leave the farmhouse, he notices a trail of footsteps in the dust on the floor, as if someone had been there recently in the house. The character thinks he hears a faint noise. Suddenly, from behind the door comes a person with a knife attacking the character. The character must make a dexterity check, and if he fails, any weapon he is carrying, either melee or ranged, will be considered to be dropped and is lost for the rest of the scene. Although when the scene is over, he can get it back if the dice roll is successful. He will not. If your dice roll is successful, he will not lose the weapon. Okay, just get across to the overhead camera because that's where all my cards are. So Vince has got to do a dexterity check, and we can see his dexterity 4. So popping across to the tray, he needs to do a dexterity check. Come on, Vince. He gets it. He gets a 2. So he doesn't lose his shotgun, which is awesome. Okay. In the same, so it says that, so we haven't lost his shotgun, that's fine. In the same way, two more people appear, armed with a knife and an axe, respectively, who emerge from the shadows and attack the nearest character. The 3 men will fight to the death as they find the characters investigating the red house. To deploy these 3 people, place 1 man armed with a knife next to the miniature of the character who's checked the point of interest. Okay. So let's do that. So we are going to be placing one of my Morris men next to Vince. And we can assume that he's been armed with a knife. Which is what we've done. And then place the other 2 at random points as indicated on the table on page 64. Alright, bear with me 2 seconds while I roll up and see where they land. Okay, give me just 2 seconds and I'll be back. Right, I just had a thought. I don't want to be accused of any shenanigans or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the 2 characters and then see where they land on the board. But I wanted to do the roll on camera. So the second guy, we'll use this red one as the 10s, and they're going to appear at 48. So 48. Let me just make a note of that. I'll remember that. 48 and 93. No, sorry. 48 and 63. All right, bear with me 2 secs. 48 and 63. I'll place them on the board and then we'll go from there. Okay, right, we've deployed our characters randomly. So this guy over here has been deployed obviously in face-to-face contact with Vince. We've got the guy with the staff over here who's got an axe. He was the guy that deployed at 63. And then we've got another Morris man over here who's deployed at 48. What it then says is once they've been deployed at the random place, they will immediately move 5 inches towards the nearest character. So this Morris man is going to move 5 inches and he's going to be actually in base-to-base contact with Grace. And then this one up the top, he's going to move 5 inches towards Rowena. So you're going to go to there like that. Obviously this one doesn't move over here, he's fine. Once the 3 armed men have been deployed and 2 of them have moved 5 inches, we will start a new game turn by shuffling the cards of the activation deck and starting the turn. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got our 4 cards for our players' warbands. I've got our 3 cards for our enemy warband, and then obviously we've got the random deck, which is what we're going to do. We'll give that a bit of a shuffle. Do a cat weasel cut, and then that one can go into the deck. I'll put all these together, and then we'll give these a good shuffle. Just going to do a bit of a shuffle on the floor just to make sure they're all as mixed up as they can be. Okay. Put those there so I can see what we're doing. And then we start a new turn. So this is basically effectively turn 3, but you know, it's what it is. Okay, the sun's coming in quite a lot today. Right, so move across to the dice tray and then we can see what is the first person to activate. We have got Players Warband. Interesting. The armed men are extras, so they've only got 1 life point each by the looks of it. I just checked on the scenario booklet and they are life points 1, so they're an ally. Yep, that's cool. They're an extra, sorry. Okay. Who do I activate first? I think I'm going to activate Grace first, because she's going to use her pistol in combat. So she's going to use her pistol against this armed man here. I'm not going to use a hero point at this point. Yeah. So she's going to fight the armed man. Let's have a look, see what the armed men have got with them. So the armed men are Strength 5, Dexterity 5, Intelligence 3, Melee 4, Ranged 4. 2 have got a big knife and 1 has got an axe. So the 2 Morris men are the guys with the big knife and the guy with the staff is the guy with the axe. So we're going to go combat for Grace and the armed man. So let's get Grace up. So she has got Strength 4, Dexterity 4, Intelligence 3, Melee of 3, a range of 6, but she is using her pistol in combat. She is going to use her pistol in combat. So we're just going to go straight dice off. That coloured dice, that one there is for the armed man. That one there is for Grace. So let's see what they get. Grace needs a 6 or less, the armed man needs a 4 or less. Grace hits with a 2 and the armed man misses with a 5. That's really good. That is really good. So let's see what they get on the injury table. Does the pistol do anything? 1d10 damage, so let's carry on using that. So let's see what we get on the injury table. Come on, 5 to 9. A 2. A 2, that's a bit annoying. That's a bit annoying. So what we're going to have to do is, we've won the combat, so I'm going to push him back an inch. I think I can do that. Let me just check. Sorry, bear with me a second. Pretty sure combat I can push back 23. Yeah, the difference wasn't 5 or more on the injury table, so we didn't get +2 to that. It wouldn't have made a difference anyway, rolling a 2. And I'll knock him back an inch. Okay, that's cool. So that is Grace activated. We'll put an activated token there. Well, actually, no, she's had one activation. So she's going to move, otherwise the guy can move into combat with her. So she's going to head towards Rowena. So her second action is going to be to move 5 inches to there. And now she has activated. We go across and we're going to get good reflexes. The next character that activates will have an extra movement action this turn. Very nice. I'll put that there so I know what's going on. Draw another card. Player's Warband, sorry. It's really sunny in here at the moment. Player's Warband. Strangely enough, we're going to activate Vince. We'll put an activated token so we know what we're doing. He's going to activate now, and he is going to try and punch the armed man. See what he can do. So let's have a look at that and see what's what. So let's just take Grace off and put Vince on. So we're going melee against melee. Vince is a melee of 5. He can't use his shotgun in close combat because it's basically a two-handed weapon. But he can use his fists. He's a melee of 5, and the armed man is a melee of 4. So we'll roll the dice, same as before. This dice will be for Vince. The other red dice will be for the armed man. Let's see what we get. Well, Vince is hit with a 2, and the armed man has hit with a 2. So they're both successful. So they're both going to roll on the injury chart. We'll roll again, see what we get. Same dice. Oh my god. Right, okay. That is a complete wipeout. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let's just move it into the, not into the sun. So the armed man rolled a 10, which on the injury chart is 2 points of life. So Vince is taken out. Poor old Vince. But also he has himself rolled a 5, which is one injury, 1 life point, sorry, and the armed man has only got 1 life point. So what we have got there is mutual annihilation. So he goes, Vince goes, and is KO'd, and the armed man is KO'd. We'll take the activated ticket away. So that was a fairly brutal round of combat. We can't use good reflexes now because obviously Vince is currently laying unconscious on the floor, so he can't get any movement. So we're going to move across to the next activation and let's see what we get. We are going to get enemy warband. What I should have done, I forgot completely about it, is to put a danger and an opportunity token on the enemy characters. I would have said he was in combat. So let's just double check danger and opportunity. Danger and opportunity. So one thing I just can't quite get my head around, but I'm sure the more I play, it'll become sort of second nature. So a danger token is placed on enemy characters in danger of suffering damage. For example, they're in combat. So he would have received a danger token, which is this one here. And the other guy would have received probably an opportunity token to move towards Rowena, but then he's in danger as well. But then I only get it's 3 tokens. Yeah, rounding up. So we would have got 2 danger and 2 opportunity. I want to give him an opportunity token. Okay. So what in effect that means is this guy with the opportunity token would act first, and he will use his first action to move into base contact with Rowena, and he will now try to hit Rowena. So Rowena is strength 5, dexterity 7, intellect or intelligence 7, melee 5, and ranged 5. Yeah, I think at this point, no, it's when they're is it when they activate a hero point? Again, sorry, a few little rules and things coming up in this game. Hero points, is it when they activate you use a hero point, or can you use a hero point at any point? 12. That's just before making a skill test. You can exchange a hero point for +3 to that dice roll. So Rowena is going to exchange a hero point at this point to give her +3 to this combat roll. So she is going to go to a fight of 8 and effectively +3 to the dice roll. Oh no, +3 to the dice roll. Okay, so let's see what she gets. So standard dice apply. This dice is for the, oh, you can't really see that, sorry, the sun's right in the way. That's the armed man, and that's Rowena. So let's see what she gets. She's going to get +3 to this dice roll. So Rowena scores a 4 and the armed man scores a 1. So they both hit. I'm assuming when it says +3 to the dice roll, because you're always trying to roll at that number or lower, it's +3 to the stat. It says in the book, from the beginning of the game, the player has 2 hero points unless anything different is stated in any given scenario, and before making a skill test, you can exchange a hero point for a bonus of +3 to that dice roll. Once exchanged, the dice roll will be made, and whether or not the result is successful, the hero point will be considered spent. Anyway, they're both successful, and the guy has got a critical hit. So, critical hit. +2 on the injury table. +2 on the injury table. So let's see what they get. Right, so +3 takes him to a 5 because he rolled a 2. So he will take 1 wound off Rowena. Sorry, just so you can see this. So we'll place the wound by Rowena. She's taken a wound because that's the 2 turned to a 5 because of the critical hit. And Rowena rolled a 9, which is he loses a hit point. And we know the armed men have only got 1 hit point, so that is him gone. But Rowena takes a wound in retaliation for that. Okay. Now the guy's not gonna get anything more because he's dead, which is fine. Can handle that. And let's see what's next. Let's see who's next. We've got enemy warband. So this guy is going to try and move twice to try and get into base contact with Grace. He can move 5. 10 inches is more than enough to lock her into combat. I'm assuming that's the way that would do it. Oh, hang on a second. Let's read the flow chart to see what it says, because there's a specific flow chart that I can read rather than making. So the action flow chart: is there an enemy? Is there an enemy on melee weapons range? Well, the answer is no. It says move towards the closest enemy using your first action. After that movement, is there an enemy on melee range? No. Use your second action to move towards that closest enemy. So effectively, that's what he does. Moves 5, doesn't get within melee, and then moves a couple to get in melee range. So he is activated, and his token goes. Because he hasn't got a ranged weapon, so big knife and an axe was what the weapon they were armed with. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting to turn the dice camera off. I think I'm just going to pause there for the time being because the sun at the moment is shining too much in. So I'm going to pause, leave it for an hour or two, and then come back and carry on, because otherwise it's going to get a bit disconcerting for people. So my apologies. It will literally be a matter of nanoseconds for you as I change the cameras, but for me it will be a bit of time whilst I wait for the sun to go down. Right, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, a matter of a quick swish for you guys and girls watching, and it's been about an hour and a half for me, but obviously the sun has now gone across, so we're not being impacted too badly, although it looked quite nice. We're now okay to carry on. So where we left off, we've got back to player or activation. So let's see what we get. There will be a number of cards in here that we don't need, but let's see what this one is. It is an enemy warband, and he is already activated, so we'll put that to one side, and then we'll go player's warband. So that will obviously be Everett or Rowena. So we've activated across here. We've investigated the farm or the house. We have investigated the barn. All that's left for us to do is activate or investigate the final one over there. So let's get Everett actually is going to activate, and he's going to peg it 10 inches to try and help out Grace. So let's see how far we can get. He's not going to go through there. He's going to go 5 to there, 4 to there, and then another 1 to there. So hopefully he can help out Grace if she needs it. And then we know the final one for us is player activation, which we can do. So look at the right hand cam. So Rowena is going to go 5 to there for an action, spend a second action to investigate, and let's read what it says in regards to that's classed as the open field. The characters discover in the distance what appears to be a path leading into the woods. It seems to have been concealed by a pile of twigs to hide it. As they approach, they see on the ground that the soil has turned dark brown from a fresh blood stain. Vince, not giving any kind of importance, mumbles, "That's nothing. One of these guys caught me sneaking around here. Where do you think I got the shotgun?" The path goes deep into the woods and seems quite busy. On the edge of the forest you can hardly hear any birds, and in the moonlight you can hardly see anything in the shady forest. Suddenly in the distance you hear the cry of a person, muffled by the distance. Oh, so that's that one investigated. So that was her first action. And then her second action, I think, is to come and try and help Grace out. So she's going to move back 10 to there. And everybody's now activated. Oh, I didn't put any activated cards by Everett, but we are fully activated. So we'll take those off. We've now got 3 players, 1, 2, 3, and we've got 1 enemy. So that's our deck sorted. We'll get a random effect card. Cat Weasel Cut, we'll do that one. Put that one there. And then what we'll do is we'll shift all these up, give them a shuffle. Let's move that to the Rowena. Give them a good old mix up. And put those to one side. We'll draw our first card for active. Oh no, hang on a second, we won't. What we'll do, we've got one. Doesn't really, actually, danger and opportunity makes no difference in this situation because he is the only enemy on the board, so he's going to be the first to activate. So here we go. Let's see who activates first. We are going to get Player's Warband. So I'm going to get Grace Carlson to go. And she is going to use a hero point. Sorry, keep forgetting. She is going to use a hero point to give her a +3 to her fight. So she is going to use her pistol. So she's going to go to 9 and the armed man is 4. So we'll roll the dice. 9 versus 4. He gets a 9 and she gets a 7. So she hits him. He doesn't hit her because his fight is 4. So that's a hit from Grace. Let's see if we can take him out. Needs a 5+. We get 6. And that is the last armed man taken out. And I think that's pretty much the end of the scenario. So let's read what it says. It says, when the scene ends, we return to the numbered entries, which we'll do in a second. But if they manage to survive, go to see. They have done. I'll read that in the next episode. But we need to do a check for Vince to see what's happened to him. Now we do have a first aid kit, which means we can heal a wound or give a point of life to any character that would have been KO'd during the scene. Clearly, Rowena is going to give the first aid kit to Vince, which means that he doesn't have to roll on the. I'm assuming he's not going to have to roll on the KO'd because he's got a life point back. I would imagine that's the way it works. Okay, so that is it for episode 3. Fairly quick scenario, this one. It's a good one. You don't know when the enemies are, or don't know where, and when you're playing the scenario, don't know when the enemy is going to come on. But you've obviously got to go and investigate. Brings into the game these points of interest, which is new for this campaign. The points of interest aren't new, but it's obviously the first time they've been used in an episode or a scene. Really cool. In the main rule book, in the other scenarios, all the points of interest you roll on tables and they do all sorts of stuff. So again, really cool and interesting mechanic. So that is it for the 3rd episode. I hope you're enjoying this playthrough. Hope you enjoy. If I'm making any mistakes or doing things wrong, then please let me know and I'll adjust accordingly. But really enjoying it. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this campaign is going to take us. But we got away quite lightly there, better than we have done in previous episodes and scenes, but that's all good. So I'll call it there, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next episode, and you take care of yourselves. Thanks very much. Bye.